Hey strangers, welcome to another episode of The Strange Sessions. I know it's been a while, so I'm going to reintroduce myself. My name is Krista. With me is Kurt.
Hi strangers.
And today we have special guest hosts who have been on the show once before.
I think they were both on once before.
Rhonda you weren't on together?
Rhonda was on once by herself.
Oh, that was
but they were both
one.
together, I think, for the EVP episode.
It might have been.
Yeah.
We were still in the old school.
Yep, I've been
we weren't the professional podcast that we are now.
We've come a long way.
No, this is definitely our first time recording in
the Strange Cellar.
The Strange Cellar. I love it.
Hey, before I forget, because I still see comments from people saying, is this a show about taste testing and why is there so much chit chat in the beginning? Yeah. Hit pause right now. Check the show notes. The timestamp of the actual topic start is listed in the show notes. Just take a second. Unless you're driving, don't do that. Just go to the next podcast.
I will put in what time the actual topic discussion starts.
And thank you to that random person on YouTube who also does that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, YouTube person, whoever does that. That's really sweet.
There will be no video this week either. Just people who are looking forward to the videos.
Too many people here. But too many people here. Plus, I don't have pants on this week.
Oh. He's got his lucky podcasting
No, actually, I'm
glad
I do because it went from like hot 80
it was like
hot,
high 80s
and now
to
it's
50s.
cold. Oh. Like last night was the first night in months that I was actually under my comforter. I've just been sleeping under the sheet, sheet because it's so hot in my apartment. Last night it was like freezing.
Yeah, we went from having the AC on in the house to having the heat on within a day.
Do you guys know, a little side note here, that the younger generation, they don't even use top sheets anymore?
I don't.
Really? Ooh,
really?
Seriously?
I feel like, so the flat sheet, I fight with it all night. So I actually just have the fitted sheet, my comforter, and then I put the flat sheet on top so that if Lucy jumps on my bed, it protects the comforter.
And see, that's what
I was always fighting with the flat sheet.
That's what I have right now is the flat sheet on top because I've been sleeping under that. But last night it felt weird not having the top sheet.
Oh,
I just had the comforter on top. I don't know. I'm a top sheet kind of guy.
Not me.
Yeah.
I've started a debate.
Welcome to bedding talk. Welcome to bedding talk.
Let's talk about toilet paper.
Started as weather talk and now it's bedding talk.
Oh, shout out!
Again, guys, skip over this if you don't want to listen to it.
This is what we do. This is what our little group does.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
totally.
We're gonna probably digress a lot in this episode. So this is
a 5-hour episode.
Well,
I love it when he talks French.
I'm gonna get into this a little bit, but this is gonna be a 2-part episode. We're going to release the second part next weekend.
Unless you're a Ko-fi subscriber, you're gonna get both parts this weekend.
But I want to give shout outs because I kind of have a lot of shout outs. So our newest strangers who joined the Facebook group are Ben Vergen, Jason Osgood, Amber May Miller, Sophie Bergeret, and Emma Smith.
That
and
Jason
a couple
Osgood
people
name is familiar to me for some reason.
Yeah. A couple other people joined yesterday, but I didn't get their name in the notes yet, so you guys will be in next week. But I also have to give some special shout outs to students that have been listening to the podcast, and those students are Jackson, Bentley, Jersey, Isaac, Peyton, Esme, Ace, Kanila, Matthew, Aiden, Kamani, Lily, Adriana, Anna Marie, Bristol, Maddie, Grace, Miraji, Mila, Jade, Mila, Jade, Lucy, and I want to give a huge special shout out to student Brenna, who has listened to every episode.
I feel like you could have just listed the students who don't listen.
I probably would have been better off, but Brenna came to me and said she has listened to every episode.
Well, thank you guys for listening.
She wants a hat, so we're going to get Brenna a hat.
That is such a fantastic segue into this topic about hats. So, guys, we have hats. We have 24 hats. They are very similar to the ones that you would have seen in the video that we posted a few weeks ago. The embroidery, like the word Strange Sessions, is just a little bit bigger. But now we have, I think there's 12 black hats, and then we have 12 assorted colors. So pink, there's like 2 of each color. My mom already bought a pink one, so there's one pink. There's like dark blue, light blue, tan, dark green, maroon, I think. But they're all going to get posted to the Ko-fi website. So if you want a hat, they're $25. You can just go to the Ko-fi website and order them there. Same exact hat. So same good quality. It's got that adjustable band in the back.
Yeah, they look like nice hats.
Yeah.
But I'm going to pick one of those up for Brenna because she
really
wants one. So students, thank you guys for listening. We were talking before we started recording how weird it is, like when I'm down monitoring for breakfast at school in the morning, I'll hear my voice coming from different parts of the room because students are listening to the podcast in the morning.
That's cute.
So thanks. I love my students. Thank you guys so much for listening.
They're like half of our listenership.
I think they are. Do we have any other? You guys want to give shout outs to anybody?
Yeah, well, I just, hello to all of our family and friends, and some of Kurt's students are some of my former students. So hello to those guys.
Yep.
And
Your daughter might be on with us for the next episode.
And then we'll have Devin early season
Next season
8.
and Blaine. We have to have Blaine on too.
Yeah, and Blaine, if you're listening, I think was he part of that whole thing at Glen Beulah? That's his team, right?
Well, he helps there. I don't know if that was his team, but he helps there.
So like
sometimes.
Jason Hawes was there, Adam Berry was there. Like they had the whole paranormal conference that I wish we could have got in on, but we just, I don't know.
They already
Found out too late
yeah.
and didn't get our butts in
We got to
gear.
get there next year.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else? Do we have any housekeeping?
Nope, I mentioned the hats. Or caps, sorry.
The caps.
Some people call them caps.
Yeah.
I call them hats.
yes.
Yeah.
The only housekeeping I have written down is that there's going to be a second part to this. The first part is going to be history, and the second part is going to be evidence of our investigation. But I'll talk more about that when we delve into the main story. But do we do the taste
Let's
test?
do the taste test.
All right. There's a good one
Oh, great.
and one
Oh,
that
boy.
I'm not sure.
Are they both beverages?
No, one's
Okay.
a beverage, one's a candy.
Which is the good one?
The beverage. So we're going to
Let's
start
do
with
the
the
candy
beverage.
first. No, let's
No.
do the candy
You need the
first.
beverage to wash the bad one down.
Actually, that's a really good idea. So this was
Putting
given
my
to me.
foot down.
I believe it was like, I think this was given to me by Stephanie, my cousin Stephanie's kids.
Oh, okay.
I think they're the ones that got us this. I think they got us both of these actually. So we're doing the nasty one first. It might not be nasty.
We're gonna
It's
do the
just
nasty
very.
first.
It's just very. It's just very confusing.
Okay. Oh, great.
Confusing.
I figure either way we can wash it down with something that hopefully
Oh,
tastes
God.
good.
This
and
is
then
candy.
That's what we'll be
This is
left with.
candy. I'll hand it to Rhonda to hand to you.
It's not like vomit flavor. or anything.
No.
Okay.
Oh, I love stuff that comes in a tin. Oh no! Why?
What is? Wow.
It is
Fried
fried
chicken
chicken flavored
candy.
candy.
Oh, that could be good.
It might be good.
Yeah.
Hey, I think one of the last times you guys had me on, we were eating bugs. So
That's
this
true.
Is
This is a step. This is
definitely
a step up from
improvement.
eating the insects.
Oh,
That is very true. We made Rhonda
Yes.
eat bugs.
Yeah,
And I'm
I
very
totally
proud
forgot
to
that.
say
I took
that.
you. Yeah, I totally forgot that
We
you were
still
there for
have
bugs.
some of those in our cabinet of
If you
curiosity.
want some more?
They never go bad, right?
No, they don't.
Don't.
Well, if the apocalypse happens,
Yeah,
we have a
okay.
couple bugs we can eat. And other leftover taste tests will be good.
We got our
Another
pickle. We have like
package.
3 things of pickle cotton candy down there.
Yeah, but they're not
Oh.
pickled cotton candy pucks.
No, they're pucks now. They're pickle pucks.
This was
Pickle pucks.
Pickle.
The word for today is
Pucks.
Pickle pucks.
Pickle pucks.
Pickle. Pickle.
All right, Krista is getting the ceremonial
Yeah,
dagger.
sorry. Apparently, this plastic is really hard to open.
Wow.
Did you see that? This is from Sophie and Adam, by the way.
Thank you, Sophie.
Oh,
and
Get
nice.
them
Adam.
every time I open a package.
This could be good.
I
I'm
think
trying
it
to.
will.
I don't know.
I like your optimism. Mark.
Yeah, I'll try.
Would you have tried the bugs?
Yeah.
Oh, it smells like fried
Maybe.
chicken.
Then it might be good.
Nice.
I say
don't
if we still
know.
have some of those bugs left, I think we should let Mark try some bugs. Everybody needs to eat
Mark,
a
you wanna
bug
try
or
some
two
bugs?
before they
Oh,
die.
Yeah, but now they're old bugs. I don't know if they would.
They never go
Oh, wow,
bad.
that does smell like fried chicken.
Totally does.
All right, we're
Take a picture
passing
of
the
that.
tin around. Here we go.
Fried chicken.
Yeah, it
Wow.
really does.
It's
That's through the package.
yeah. When you get it,
Ah, it's
when,
hard
when you
candy.
get
Okay,
it,
do we have something that we can spit this out into? If we
No.
decide that it's not as
Spit it at
Put
Krista.
it back in here, I guess.
the smell of it unwrapped is very
Oh,
disconcerting.
Guys.
The smell of it unwrapped is very disconcerting.
Hang on, I'm
it
still
like-
struggling with the wrapper here, so
My
y'all
God.
just
Need the dagger.
I just might need the
I
dagger.
feel like is it supposed to be sweet? Is it going to be
I hope it's not
savory?
sweet.
the wrapper. I need something.
She's
just
fully
gave you one.
anticipating
Oh, okay.
spitting
Why
it
are you
out.
anticipating? Maybe it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, what
Debbie
could go wrong
Downer.
with this fried chicken hard candy?
Fried
ready?
chicken. I want the mashed potatoes.
Yeah, the mashed potatoes.
Ready?
Ready?
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay.
Oh, it's very.
Oh,
Is that sage?
oh no, I can't. I can't. No.
Nope. Nope.
That's horrible.
This chicken's gone bad.
Oh, disgusting.
Yeah,
It's a very
Chicken
There's a very predominant
should not
spice.
be.
I don't know what
sucked on.
spice this is.
And when you
I feel sorry
breathe,
for
when
the
you breathe
chicken,
out
I
through
really
your
do.
nose, you get something else that's really disgusting. It's like it almost is like the chicken's been burnt, and that's what you're tasting.
Yeah.
Oh, this is horrible.
Yep, I'm done.
I lasted longer than you guys, but I'm
Yeah, you
done.
did. I'm
I
proud of
can't.
you.
I can't.
Yeah.
Who sent us
I don't know.
this?
I think Stephanie's.
I thought you
kids-
liked us, Stephanie's kids.
We need the green bean
Oh, that
casserole.
aftertaste.
What did we ever do?
It's worse when you
Yes,
not. It's worse when you
yes.
do not have it. It's actually better when you have it in your mouth because it's gross when
Yeah,
you're
the
not.
aftertaste
Hey,
is
this is a
disgusting.
family.
Yeah, this is horrible. Wow.
Well then,
Okay.
I'm glad we
I would
started
happily
with
eat
that.
The
bugs
good one.
again.
You ready for the good one?
I'm ready for the good one.
It sounds
Oh,
gross,
that's
but
horrible.
it's not. It's soda.
Ooh, it's pretty.
It is called alien snot.
Oh,
Hey.
But
we
it
need to
is
take a picture.
actually
It's very pretty.
It is
Yeah, yeah.
actually
It is
blue
pretty.
raspberry and kiwi.
ooh, that sounds good.
Ooh.
Oh, this chicken is horrible.
And it's cold.
And it's cold. You're not gonna make us drink warm soda.
Thank you.
Aiden,
I just
snot.
Here, where's
No, I'll just put one over here.
Alien snot.
garbage?
Oh,
Okay,
that is horrible.
so I hope this is a twisty
Ooh, I gotta
top.
throw mine in there too.
It is sweet.
Oh, we know you're saving that for the ride home. Yeah, that would. Yeah.
You should hand the rest of those out for trick or treaters.
That'll ensure they never come back here, which is what we want. We don't hand candy out actually. Pour a little in your cup. I
Oh,
remember
it
that.
was a very good idea to do the good one last.
Yes, thank you for suggesting that.
Because that taste. You got some in yours?
no, not yet.
The taste in your mouth is horrible.
I love chicken.
It
Love
was-
chicken.
it was
I'm one of
the
those people that
spice.
could
I don't know if-
buy a rotisserie chicken and eat the whole chicken by myself. But
It was mostly some spice.
yeah, it should
Yeah.
never be.
Some-
It
Someone's
was
wrong
it was
there.
what they were trying to do to get the fried skin part.
Yes,
Ugh.
yes,
That really
yes.
threw it
They
off.
should have tried
Yes.
harder.
Cause yeah,
Or
just
maybe
not
as
try
hard.
at
Oh, yeah,
all.
they're even better.
Are you ready to try the aliens?
Some
Really
things,
good.
some things
Ready
just
for-
aren't meant to.
Ready for
be
alien
made into
snot?
candy form.
Let's
Okay.
do some snot.
Aliens not.
Cheers.
Here we go. Cheers.
Cheers, folks.
Oh, sorry.
Cheers.
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 Come on, guys. Here you go. All right. Did we?
That is good.
Click. All right, good. Here
That
we
is good. It's much better.
Way
that is
better than
much
fried
better
chicken
than the fried
candy.
chicken candy.
Oh, that alien.
go.
has good
Alien
snot.
snot.
Yeah, who knew alien snot would be so
That
delicious?
seriously is really
It
good.
is really good.
Okay, where did you get that one?
This is from. I don't know where they got it. It's from my cousin's kids got it.
Oh, this
Oh,
is another one.
so they gave us
yeah,
both.
they gave us good.
I guess they
Okay,
do
they-
but
like
this
us.
is the one.
They've
that-
redeemed
no,
themselves.
this is the one that the. What were the two nasty soda flavors we got? Because it's made by this same company.
Oh,
Ketchup? Was it a ketchup
yeah.
flavor?
Oh, that was
that's
terrible.
Wrong. That's
Yeah.
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
The ketchup one was gross.
Maybe we
The
should have
color
that
of this is
chase.
really pretty though.
Yeah. So this is good.
All
Fried
right.
chicken candy, not so much.
No.
Oh, fried chicken candy out of 10?
-2.
Okay, I'm going to go with
Negatives
negative.
are allowed.
I usually don't give negatives, but I'm giving that a -2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree. That
Okay.
was bad.
This I'm put at 9. This is almost
Yeah, this is
perfect.
very good.
I'm doing a 9 because I don't like soda, so I'm never gonna give it a 10. But that's a 9 for flavor.
I would agree.
It's actually not super carbonated, which is what I don't like about soda.
No, it's really not that carbonated.
Yeah.
You don't like the bubbles?
I don't like the bubbles.
I love the bubbles.
They
I
burn.
don't because I can't burp. So I generally
which
I'll
is-
get like 2 liters of soda at home
So
and
Kurt
shake
walks
them
around
up.
looking like he's pregnant after he eats a soda.
Thus, his
that's-
possessed
that's why your
stomach.
stomach does it.
That's why my
Yes,
stomach. That's why my stomach's always
exactly.
gurgling.
Did you ever found out like why you aren't able to burp?
No,
It's just bizarre.
no, I
It is
don't.
bizarre.
I don't know.
Can Corey burp?
I don't think so. I don't think Corey burps.
I feel like
either.
we had this conversation when
I feel like we
Corey
did
here.
too. This might be a
You're
mystery
out
don't
there.
remember.
for a future podcast, a future
Would you
The
episode.
mini
confirm or
mystery
deny if you
is
can
why
burp?
Kurt and Corey can't burp.
Can you fart? Or?
That I can do.
Right.
If I couldn't do that, it would be a sad state
You would
of
be
affairs.
floating around
Yeah, I'd
in
blow
the
up.
stratosphere
I'd blow up
somewhere.
Like a rocket man, you know?
I try not to during the episode.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Again,
Unlike Joe. Sorry, Joe, I'm going to throw you under the bus.
Did he really?
Oh, all the
During
time.
an
And we were
episode?
locked in that tiny. Yes.
The tiny room at the school?
With no windows that open. Well, some of the windows you could crack open, and all of a sudden he'd get this look on his face because they were silent. Miss you
Silent-
guys.
Silent
Deadly.
Island.
Actually, just saw them. We're having lunch next week.
Oh, tell them I said hi.
I will.
Do we have any other things to do, or do we jump into this
Let's
bad
jump
boy?
in. We're actually at 22 minutes, and
Okay.
so we're ahead of schedule on the titillating
Yeah,
20 because we
we're
have the
actually-
unedited part.
We
at
are
the
actually
beginning.
doing good.
Boom.
All right. So
For once.
as I mentioned previously, we're trying something different here. This is going to be a 2-part episode because
Like intentionally 2 parts.
intentionally 2 parts because I'm not a really good judge of how long stuff is going to go. In the second part of the episode, we have 20 EVPs to
Holy
listen
moly.
to. So that and they're looped
But we have guest
3
hosts
times,
as well.
and we have guest hosts.
That's
and
gonna
in
add
our
some
second
time.
half, I kind of want to talk about investigating in general.
Yeah.
So we are doing 2 parts. This first part released this week is going to be history about St. Nazianz and JFK Prep. And the second part next week will be our evidence from our investigation there back in 2005.
Dang.
It was a long time ago.
That was PK.
But here's what I have written down.
Pre-Krista.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here's what I have written down. So here's why this episode is important to us. St. Nazianz and JFK Prep are close to us. They're kind of infamous in the area, and we are one of the only groups who have gotten to do an official investigation there with the owner's permission. It's kind of a big thing for us. You know, and when I started looking into talking about JFK Prep on the show back when we did haunted areas in Wisconsin, I was surprised that a lot, or if not everything I saw about it being haunted kind of came directly from our investigation report that's online.
That's fun. Wow.
It's weird because some stuff I had never read before, and I think I was one of the first people to find this when I was reading the old journals of St. Nazianz at the library, and now it shows up in all the stuff. So it's like, was I the first person to kind of dredge that up? So it's weird seeing our stuff given on websites as
like a source for
like
where
a
they got
source
their
for why
information.
it's haunted.
That's really cool.
You know, so most of the stuff that's out there about it being haunted came directly from our investigation there all those years ago. So I kind of really wanted to do this for a couple reasons. I want to have our viewpoints on stuff. And I know our loyal listeners will enjoy this episode, but I feel like I want to do this one for local people that are looking into stuff about JFK Prep. And I want to have all of our evidence here in one place on the podcast that will always be here. Because some of our EVPs,
It's like a little archive.
yeah, some of our EVPs from that night are like hard to find. I think you can't. There's still an ECWPI webpage.
Really?
Yeah. There's still a blog,
Wow.
and they have links to the EVPs, but they're not there anymore. So I want everything to be on here.
Do you realize that was my first investigation with you guys? Because I know, like,
Yeah.
you, Kurt, and Mark, and Matt, you guys had kind of started.
We did that place
you
in
did
in
an
Oshkosh,
did a little
Starseed. We
shot,
did
yeah.
Starseed in Oshkosh.
And then the JFK Prep.
yeah.
That was my first investigation as official member
Wow.
of the group.
What
yeah.
a first
And
way
oh
to
my
start
gosh.
your...
We're going to get into it
That's
more in
crazy.
the second part, but
Okay.
I regret the investigation, us doing the investigation when we did. One of the main reasons because Krista wasn't with us at the time.
Oh,
Totally.
absolutely.
You know, like, I
was
wish
gonna say, why?
Krista-
But other
Loved
than,
having
right?
you
I
there.
know that none of
Well,
you
other than the
guys,
fact that we would know better now what to do. Like, it was just kind of mishmash walking around. Like, I feel like
Yeah,
we
we were
didn't.
new.
We did. Yeah, we were new. Like, I would love to do an investigation there now as
Oh, yeah.
like seasoned investigators
Yeah.
with Krista, obviously,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
Krista wasn't
I
with
think
us at the
that
time.
that chance is past.
It's past. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Unless
so,
it comes into new ownership at some point.
What's the
Well,
state
let me
of
tell-
the buildings too?
if I ever win the lottery, you guys,
We're gonna buy it.
we're buying that
Ooh,
property.
yeah.
Sweet.
And we are going to refurbish it, and because
Yeah.
it is a very special, very, very, very special
yeah,
place.
and we
It
we
is.
talk about it on the podcast a lot. So I just wanted to devote a very special episode to St. Nazianz and JFK Prep because it's not just JFK Prep. There's stuff about St. Nazianz too when
Right.
we get into the whole how it was founded, and there's so many rumors about it. So I wanted this to
Yeah,
like
I'd like to
separate
dispel some of
yeah,
that.
to separate fact from fiction, and to have like to discuss our investigation there. So this is online that people can actually go and listen to it that are searching for stuff on JFK Prep. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. So this is to set the scene. This is an article from medium.com from March 7th, 2019 called, quote, "The Secrets of St. Nazianz, Priests, Vandalism, and Abandonment." And you guys talk amongst yourself while I change my glasses. Because everything was blurry.
When was the last time you guys went to the thrift store there?
Oh,
We.
it's
How
been
long ago was
a
it?
while.
That's our only chance really to go back there now is
Right.
to visit the thrift store.
Do
I
you
haven't
even-
been there. It's probably been well over a year.
I know. I think Kurt, you and I had gone.
Yeah. Well, I'm
a
annoyed
maybe
because I
years
really wanted to
ago.
get there this last week, but with school being on,
So is the thrift store still open?
The thrift store is still open. Yeah, I went
I
there
know
with.
the last time you and I had gone, they were converting, I think, the upper floor, though, back to maybe
Because I
like
went there
the
with.
Like where the
worship
furniture was?
spot. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I went
Because
there
the
with
church
Asher
is
and
still under
Grayson.
construction, right?
The church, I think, is always going to be under construction.
Yeah, beautiful place.
It is.
It really is.
But I was there with Asher and Grayson. It was a while ago, but I know the thrift store is still open because I do drive out there sometimes. So yeah, I need to get back out there. I wanted to do it this week, but I just couldn't with school. And next Friday, I think we're off for an in-service, so I could have went next Friday. But it's been a while since I've been there too. I want to say months.
It's been over a year for me.
Yeah.
I think Jim and I went there together.
Yeah.
The last time.
Yup. So here is the article setting the scene for this. It reads, quote, I felt a rush of excitement as I drove up to JFK Prep Seminary School in St. Nazianz, Wisconsin with my friend Krista on a cold Saturday afternoon. I slowed down to stare at the old building, feeling amazed and curious as I thought about various events that could have taken place there. I could see why people would think this building is haunted just based on its appearance alone. As I stared up at the 4-story building with broken windows, I couldn't help but wonder what events had occurred there and if the rumors were true. What if JFK Prep and the rest of St. Nazianz itself was haunted? And what events and rumors gave the town its creepy reputation? Unfortunate events happen in multiple places, so why are only certain places considered to be haunted? I had researched this town before I arrived and had gotten a lot of background information from a website called Cult of Weird made by Charlie Hintz. In his article, Hintz states that, quote, the town of St. Nazianz is believed to be one of the most haunted places in Wisconsin. It was founded by a rogue priest who, upon his death, is believed to have cursed the town he built. Throughout the years, natural disasters and numerous accounts of bizarre, unexplained phenomena have helped keep the legend alive. The rogue priest that Hintz is referring to was a priest named Father Oswald. Even though the whole town is said to be cursed and haunted, the building JFK Prep is arguably the most haunted place in this small town. JFK Prep used to be a Salvation seminary, but was turned into a 4-year school for boys who wanted to become priests and was renamed to JFK Prep. That's not technically true, but we'll get to that later. Hintz reports that JFK Prep was rumored to be haunted not only by Father Oswald, but also rumored to be haunted by the tortured souls of kids who suffered at the hands of abusive nuns. Lutsky implies in his article that JFK Prep could also be haunted by a student that committed suicide there. He says, quote, you can also supposedly hear students laughing in the school hallways, which is credited to residual energy from all the kids who have passed through the school. The ghost hunters who explored the grounds a few years ago did confirm that a student committed suicide in the dorms, and they were even shown the suicide note as confirmation. Perhaps it takes several unfortunate events to happen in one place for that place to be considered haunted. I pulled up to the thrift store behind JFK Prep, which seemed to be one of the few places open to the public in this small and mysterious town. We got out of the car and walked into the small building. To our left was a table with miscellaneous objects scattered all over it. That's like free stuff that people can take when they come in. Like,
Yeah, and
like
sometimes
bread.
there's like food.
Yeah, there's
Right.
bread.
Yeah.
There's like vegetables and stuff. So that's what she's talking about here. To our right was a staircase going down with a piece of mint green construction paper with the words thrift store and an arrow pointing to the stairs. Chris and I walked down the stairs and we opened an old door with wood peeling up from the bottom of it. The whole place had a strange smell, and the smell became stronger once we entered the thrift store. The place had dim lighting and wasn't very clean or well organized. Most of the thrift store consisted of old clothes, none of them meeting my taste and fashion. We walked around more to find old books. The most interesting of the books were a few cheesy romance novels that I like to laugh at. The rest of the thrift store consisted of miscellaneous objects such as dolls, jars, knickknacks, more things than I could name. However, I couldn't see anyone purchasing any of these objects.
I'd like to interject that I've found some nice stuff.
I
there.
found a
have
ton of
too.
nice things there.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're really...
And I see you reading those romance stuff all the time.
I do.
Chris.
I do. I see... they're making it sound like we're... like I don't know. I just don't like the
To
way...
me, it's a typical thrift
it's,
store.
yeah, it's
That's
a
what
thrift
thrift
store.
stores are.
There's going
Right.
to be good and there's going to be bad.
Right.
Yeah, and they're going to have a smell. Like thrift stores have a smell.
They're
like
filled
a
with
musty,
old stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Previously owned things.
I couldn't see anyone purchasing any of the objects, even though I've personally purchased something every time I've gone there.
Right.
I wondered who these objects once belonged to and why they were given up. Were any of these old objects haunted as well? As Krista and I walked out of the thrift store, an elderly woman told us to have a good day. I felt surprised as I recalled a previous time I had been to St. Nazianz with another friend and tried to go into the thrift store, only to be told by a woman that the thrift store was closed and we were escorted back to the road. I got the sense that she didn't trust two teenage girls to be alone near the closed thrift store and the supposedly haunted JFK Prep. I remembered reading comments on websites from people who have been to this thrift store saying that the staff seemed to be on edge as if they were hiding something. Perhaps some of the objects in the thrift store could be haunted. A person named Cassidy says in the reviews, quote, "I've heard about the people being edgy." She goes on to talk about how she would like to get inside a JFK Prep to make a documentary, but all the people in the town aren't being very helpful or telling her anything about it. Another person that goes by the online name Risen comments, quote, "Have been there a few times since it was abandoned and made into a thrift store. There is clearly something going on there. I'd wager something besides ghosts and thrifting. The staff seems way too edgy and protective."
That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I disagree. I think they know the
they're
history
sick of people coming in and asking,
trespassing.
yeah.
Well, they're very religious, aren't they?
Yep.
And they're very
Uh,
religious.
Goes against
There,
it, I think.
in the second episode, there will be a comment from somebody that works there explaining why.
Okay, good.
Yeah. These comments from other people that have been to the thrift store reassured me that I wasn't the only one to come across reserved employees that did not seem to want teenage girls snooping around looking for information. I wondered if my friend and I just happened to go to the store on a day a friendly employee was working instead of the private and secretive employees that others and myself have encountered before.
I've never encountered that, by the way.
Nope.
No.
We walked over to the St. Ambrose Church next to the thrift store and looked at the broken stained glass windows that I'm sure at one point in time were beautiful. And exactly, they are. I remembered research I had found saying that this church is where the townspeople kept Father Oswald's body until his coffin was finished being built. And that's true. I looked out into the distance and saw a cemetery. This specific cemetery is only for priests that have preached in St. Nazianz and is the current crypt of Father Oswald. I attempted walking to the cemetery through the snow, but I sunk into the snow with every step, filling my sneakers with cold, wet snow. Feeling slightly defeated, Krista and I walked back to my car and I drove us to another building only about a minute drive away from JFK Prep. This building fascinates me because I still do not know what it is or what it once was. This building, however, is just as creepy as JFK Prep, with nearly every window either broken or boarded up and what appeared to be a bullet hole through the side door. I think this is the printing building.
That's gonna
Yeah.
say,
Oh,
but
so
that-
on the same
for-
property?
Yeah.
Was it a minute
Printing?
away? What?
I don't know. I wish that I had the background knowledge on this building, but no matter how hard I searched, I could not find any answers as to what this building once was or what it's used for now. We walked further down the plowed path. If this place is truly abandoned, why do people bother to plow a path? I wondered. It's not abandoned. There's people that actually live out there. We followed the path to the next building. The building had 4 floors and many windows, most of them either broken or boarded up. I could only imagine that this building was once used as an apartment building, and that's the dorms, I'm guessing.
Right, yep.
There were also 3 cars parked in front of this building that were snowed in, no way of telling how long they've been there. We approached the last building, and once again, I had no idea what it once was or what it is now. However, I could tell that someone had been there recently. I found fresh footprints in the snow and a car that had been cleaned of the ice and snow. Suddenly feeling uncomfortable, I turned to my friend and told her that we should just go back to the car. We quickly walked back to the car, feeling slightly anxious that we might have went onto someone's property and that we were about to get ourselves into trouble. We got back into the car and I started to drive away, taking one last look at the creepy JFK Prep and once again wondering if anyone would ever find out what happened in that seminary. So that's the article. I feel like
They missed
so
the mark
much
on so much of it.
I feel like so much
Yeah.
of the reports of people going there are just so
misinformed and
like misinformed and like just trying to be scary. I
Yeah,
guess.
totally.
I don't
Yeah,
know how
absolutely.
else to say it.
They're not looking for actual truth or facts.
No, but I mean, if you didn't know better, I mean, the place is weird. It's like an abandoned high school.
Yeah.
But it felt peaceful. To
That's
me
yeah.
there
That's
all.
one thing.
Same.
That's one thing that I want to get into in the second part is how we all felt out there. You know. So that's just kind of setting the scene and explaining like what people believe JFK Prep to be. You know, and there are people that live out there now. The church community that lives out there are out there.
Aren't there
and-
like RVs and stuff?
yeah, there's the
even?
campground.
Okay.
There's actually a campground
Yeah.
there now too. But they do church things out there. Like I ran into one of my students out there who were on alpacas. Like they had alpacas
fun.
out there.
Oh,
so I
cool.
mean,
Very cool.
they do stuff with it. It's just that they can't seem to get enough money to get the place back up and running. Like
that
where
would
they could
be quite the project.
It would be quite the
It is
project.
very
I mean,
run
that's
down.
stuff that Jerry was trying to do when we had our investigation there.
Yeah. So that religion, that isn't like it's not a
It's
cult
United.
kind of
No,
thing, right?
no, it's United Ministries out of Green Bay.
Okay.
But no, it's not. It's not. And that's the thing, is that there's so much stuff about this cult, this town being started by a cult. And I'm going to mention it in the second part, or it might even be in this part, but JFK Prep was actually kind of in the mainstream news a couple years ago with the Stephen Avery stuff, because there was a guy named Dave Bogotka who had videos about how Manitowoc is run by like a secretive group of all the businessmen called like the Good Old Boys, and they go to JFK Prep to communicate with Satan in the basement of the dorm building.
I never heard that.
Yeah, so that was like it wasn't like part of the making a murderer thing, but it was online, and people it was like a secretive satanic sex club. It's a secretive satanic sex club in Manitowoc, supposedly.
Have a hobby,
Yeah. So that it was actually in the news, like JFK Prep was kind of in the mainstream news a little bit. But are you ready to jump into the history of St. Nazianz?
The actual true history
like
of
St.
Nazianz.
Nazianz. The St. Nazianz is, I don't know. I get a vibe there. I do get a vibe in St. Nazianz, kind of like I did in Fond du Lac. Like just like not like flat out creepy, but
you just know there's some
just
history
different.
there.
Yeah. But it's such a small town. Like there's nothing there except a couple
it's a little
buildings.
Farming community.
Meets Opera House, which is actually awesome.
Okay.
It's a little restaurant bar place. I was there for a wedding.
My grandma and grandpa lived there for a while.
Really? Yeah. They have,
Actually,
they have like good food.
Mark's mom grew up on a farm in that area, and she has told us about going to JFK Prep
On
for
a school
like
trip
yeah.
while it was running.
Yeah, and I didn't know a lot about it until I researched it, and it's really kind of cool sounding. Like, I love, like, I'll get into it when I talk about the history of JFK Prep, but I'm like really intrigued now by that school, like how it was run and stuff. But anyway, here's the history of St. Nazianz itself. So all of this starts with a man named Ambrose Oshwald. This comes from a great article in a 2010 issue of the Max Cade Institute Friends newsletter called, quote, Father Ambrose Oshwald and the Utopian Community of St. Nazianz in Wisconsin, Part 1.
Utopian community.
That's a mouthful.
Okay.
Ambrose Oshwald was born in 1801 at a time when the power of the Catholic Church in his homeland of, I never know how to pronounce this, is it Baden, Germany, or Baden, Germany? I think it's Baden.
I have no idea.
Of Baden, Germany, was fading rapidly. The previously intertwined relationship of church and state had been dissolved, and though 2/3 of the population of Baden were Roman Catholic, a Protestant government was using its power to diminish the influence of the Catholic Church. Church property was seized, monasteries and convents were closed, and seminary education was regulated now by state authorities. Nevertheless, for many families there, Catholicism remained very much alive, and the Oshwald family was no exception. Ambrose's father, Matthias, a devout Catholic, ran a mill in southern Baden. I never know how to pronounce that. And in his late adolescent years, the young Oshwald felt a calling to serve his church. In 1833, after 2 years of seminary training, Ambrose Oshwald was ordained as a Catholic priest. Oshwald had few needs, and he led a Spartan life. He was more apt to spend his salary on the needs of the parish rather than on himself. The central theme of the gospel message, he told his parishioners, was to love one's neighbor, and his compassion for the unfortunate, as well as his charismatic personality, continually drew people to him. But Oshwald also found himself repeatedly in conflict with the church hierarchy, and he was transferred from one parish to another, often to remote areas of the diocese. Like, they didn't care for him.
He's a problem child.
He's a problem
So send him
child.
away.
Yep. The controversies had to do with three aspects of the young priest's ministry. First, Father Oshwald believed that he had possessed special powers to heal the sick. Indeed, it seems probable that he had become familiar with homeopathic cures because his family had practiced them. He had shown an early interest in studying plants and herbs that could heal illnesses. However, he also read biblical accounts of people being restored to health through prayer, the laying on of hands, and exorcism. In 1843, Oshwald openly declared that he had healed 3,160 people, attributing his power to God.
Wow.
In one community, local doctors called him a quack and demanded both a civil and church investigation, but after an inquiry, Oswald was found innocent of any wrongdoing.
He was just ahead of his time.
Yeah, this came up a lot, that he was just kind of ahead of his time.
Wow.
This aspect of his ministry remained part of his work in Wisconsin, and there are those today who still believe he was able to perform miraculous cures. This comes from another article called Waiting for the End of the World at the End of the World. Millener, oh boy. Millener.
Wow, nailing it. You're just nailing
That's
it.
all, folks.
Okay, it's a Millenarianism.
Okay.
Miles from Nowhere, St. Nazianz, Wisconsin. It was written by Hubert Trieber, and this might have been like his college thesis, because it's like a really scholarly paper. He writes, quote, and this is him talking about like the investigations into Oswald. He writes in his paper, the report of the 20th October 1843, which refers back to a police investigation ordered by the authorities, goes on to say, quote, Chaplain Oswald asserted quite freely and modestly that he was equipped with higher powers and that he could, if necessary, use these powers in the name of the Almighty to cure all ills, chronic and acute, even those previously considered incurable. He would use exorcism, consecrated oil, the laying on of hands, and prayer, and would shun all forms of medical assistance that were contrary to his way of healing. According to his own records, his patients number over 3,000, and he claims in good faith to have healed most of these. An ignoramus would take this Oswald for a miracle worker. However, a closer look makes us think otherwise. Oswald is of meager stature and is permanently in a state of high excitement, which he attributes to disguise by adopting sober habits. His early education is most deficient. His university education was cut short as he pursued his healing activities. Oswald's profoundly disordered imagination appears to be deceiving him, and we would advise him to work his healing powers on himself so that he would no longer have to practice them on others. However, this man is still causing the diocese and secular authorities great inconvenience. Only firm intervention can rid us of this inconvenience. Oswald enjoys a reputation of a religious and moral man, and yet brings out the contrast between irreligiousness and immorality in people, even in clerics themselves, even more when grasping landlords, roguish schoolmasters, and others determined to follow the path of self-deception stand to gain by his nefarious activities. Oswald will pay scant heed to the orders of the church authorities. Feeling aggrieved that his supposed right to heal is challenged, he assuages his conscience with the thought that he owes greater allegiance to God than to man. So that's like a report about him.
Okay.
Like they didn't like him.
Not very nice.
No, they did not like him.
That's not a glowing review in any
No.
sense of the word.
No. So you can see why they're moving him from church to church.
Mm-hmm.
The second controversy that involved Oswald concerned his belief in mysticism, his conviction that he had a special relationship with God and could interpret dreams and visions and see into the future. In 1849, he published a book entitled Mystische Schriften, which means mystical writings in German, in which he predicted the second coming of Christ at the turn of the century and the establishment of a new Jerusalem in southwestern Germany. This would be followed by 1,000 years of peace throughout the world. Religious authorities called the book heretical and a hodgepodge of nonsense. Some also questioned Oswald's mental stability. The church, which could hardly tolerate a priest with crazy ideas, asked Oswald to pledge that he would publish no further books. Nevertheless, despite his promise, another book appeared within the year. Like, I like this guy.
Yeah, he's a rebel,
I really
isn't he?
do, yeah.
Come on.
The third and
I feel
final...
like churches need rebels.
Yeah, 100%. The third and final blow occurred in 1850 when the priest founded a society called Der Geistlich Magnetische Verein, which stands for Spiritual Magnetic Society. This attempt to organize his followers worried the archbishop, who, fearing the group would turn into a cult, composed a letter to each of the churches warning parishioners of Oswald's ideas. He then relieved Oswald of his parish and limited his priestly duties. In 1852, Oswald retreated to Munich, where he began studying medicine, a move he had contemplated for some time. Upon his return 2 years later, he informed the archdiocese that he was giving up the priesthood in favor of medicine. He then requested and received permission from both civil and religious authorities to come to the United States. His emigration papers recorded his profession as, quote, former priest. At the end of May 1854, Oswald and 113 of his followers boarded 2 ships at Le Havre, France, and began a 5-week journey across the Atlantic Ocean. After arriving in New York, they journeyed on to Milwaukee, where Oswald used their pooled resources to purchase 3,840 acres of land in Manitowoc County. They christened their yet unseen village St. Nazianz, after St. Gregory of Nazianz, who centuries earlier had retreated into a contemplative life just as they intended to do. I think that's cool. The long journey had taken its toll, and the number of those remaining with Oswald had dwindled. In New York, some of them had refused to journey any farther. In Milwaukee, others were too sick to continue. Only the strongest traveled on to the north and to begin creating a new home out of the tangled forested wilderness that at that time made up eastern Wisconsin. And here's one of the things that shows up a lot, is that it is rumored that when they landed, like here in Manitowoc kind of, they were led to where St. Nazianz is today by, quote, a divine white heifer. Like a white ox appeared that led them to the town that is St. Nazianz now.
I saw that thing yesterday.
Did it lead you anywhere? But
did it take you to Quick Trip?
It's quick Trip and Culver's. It's just that it's hard to find like concrete evidence of this. A newspaper called the Kiel Record, in an article from March 2nd, 1922, says, quote, "There is a legend that when they arrived at the eastern boundary of their tract, a white ox appeared before them, and that they followed the animal in its winding path until it stopped on the very spot where the first church was built and where it still stands today. The story is supposed to explain why the streets of St. Nazianz wind and wind without any apparent reason for their crookedness. The brothers of the community admit the existence of the legend, but do not vouch for its authenticity." Another account says that the men let their own ox wander around after passing the border of the property, and then they selected the spot where their oxes stopped to create like the first church. But there's a lot of talk about this divine white ox that they followed. But when it says the brothers of the community admit the existence of the legend but do not vouch for its authenticity, it makes me think it's kind of a made-up story.
Yeah.
But, maybe they did let their own oxes wander, but I don't think there was a divine white ox that led them. By Christmas of 1854, only 70 of the original 113 were still members of the Oswald community. Life was difficult in the initial years of settlement. The new immigrants experienced hardships in the forms of hunger, many fires, unexplained deaths, and severe winters, all of which led to dissension.
Where did they come from?
Germany.
Okay.
And we're going to get into this when we talk about St. Nazianz being cursed, but there's like a weird history of fires in St. Nazianz. So that's actually kind of crazy. I could not find this, and it's driving me crazy because when I first researched St. Nazianz for our investigation, I came across an old journal that had a story that somebody supposedly saw. It looked like some kind of monster boy or some kind of weird boy, like on the back of, I want to say a unicorn or some weird animal, and it was throwing.
Was it a white ox?
No, but it was throwing. It was throwing fireballs from its hand.
What?
Yeah, and I could not find where I got that information from, but there are reports that somebody saw this creature flinging fireballs around St. Nazianz.
Back in the settlement.
Back in the
time?
settlement times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, but they have a history of fires and stuff, and they were just having problems. Worst of all was their inability to make mortgage payments on the land. By 1860, however, St. Nazianz had begun to grow, and Oswald had formulated his ideas about how the village should operate. Settlers then began going by the name, quote, the Association, which is kind of like, a weird name. Like, don't call yourself something like that because people are going to think you're a cult.
Right.
Or a mob
The Association of the Divine Ox.
Yeah, so they're the association.
with fireball.
The fireball throwing monster. Any German-speaking Catholic, single or married, or anyone wishing to become Catholic was eligible to join the community as long as that person adhered to its principal rules. Members agreed to share work, money, and food, live a life of humility, observe the sacraments, educate the young, and above all else, serve others, especially the sick, the poor, widows, and orphans. Swearing, quarreling, fighting, unlawful conduct, impurity, boorishness, and rudeness could lead to getting kicked out of the town.
So don't be boring.
Don't be boorish.
Yeah.
But a person was given 3 chances to reform before being ousted. Initially,
Is that where 3 strikes and you're out?
Pretty much. Initially, all members, married and unmarried, lived in the numerous log houses built under Oswald's directions. In time, 2 convents were constructed for the unmarried, who became known as brothers and sisters. Additional houses were added as membership increased, and eventually also a hospital, an orphanage, several schools, and a short-lived seminary, as well as mills and businesses showed up. Among the colony's craftsmen were a shoemaker, a tailor, a baker, a weaver, a blacksmith, a mason, and carpenters. The sisters made straw hats, felt shoes, and artisan cheese that were often sold outside the community. Cheese has always been a thing here.
Wisconsin.
And they became some of the area's first educators as Catholic schools emerged throughout the county. Community members were not paid for their work, but if they performed jobs for non-affiliated individuals, they were allowed to accept payment and keep their earnings. This money they often put back into their businesses to purchase needed supplies. Non-members could also reside in the village, usually individuals who possessed specific skills or sold goods the community needed, for which they were compensated. Individuals joining the colony were expected to donate whatever money they could to the common treasury. In theory, a member could leave the society at any time, taking along an amount of money or property determined in accordance with the work or money he or she had contributed. Some members who left were compensated as promised, but others apparently were not. So there was some unhappiness with that stuff. Members of the Oswald settlement enjoyed their meals together, though children ate, as one member stated, quote, apart from the table. While the adults worked, children were required to attend school. Nevertheless, they were also expected to do manual labor when they were old enough. The colony provided its members with basic clothes and shoes, but any extras had to be furnished by the members themselves. The St. Nazianz Society never joined a specific Catholic order, although Oswald adopted the principles of the Third Order of St. Francis, an official order that included both married and unmarried members. He also introduced the Catholic Breviary, a strict regimen of prayers recited at various times during the day. A typical day involved rising early and going to bed late, with the hours in between interspersed with work, meals, prayer, and an evening recitation of the rosary. At its height in the early 1870s, the colony had approximately 200 members, and a century later, researcher Father Alfred Schnebel listed a total of some 350 persons who at various times had been members of, quote, the settlement, as it was known locally. Although mysticism had played a large role in his spiritual life in Germany, Father Oswald seems to have laid this aside upon his arrival to the United States, perhaps because of the pressures connected to building his communal society. He enjoyed good relations with the Archbishop of Milwaukee, who visited St. Nazianz several times. He continued to use his medical skills to help those who were ill, collecting plants and herbs for his homeopathic cures and keeping records of illnesses he treated. It is said that anyone that showed up needing help, no matter what his or her religious affiliation, he would help them. So he's like, we'll talk more about it in the second part, but when
Seemed
I was
he was a good guy
like when I was
Yeah.
when I was
wasn't he?
interviewed for the paranormal show that kept trying to get me to say that Father Oswald was satanic and that it was a satanic cult, and I kept saying no. I'm like everything that I came across was like he was a good dude,
I
But
think Krista said it earlier that I think he definitely was just
He was ahead
he
of
was
his
a
time.
rebel. Like he was a
Yeah.
rebel. Yeah,
total
like
ahead of
he
his
marched
time.
to his own beat. He's
Yes,
like, I'm
ahead
not.
of his own
Yeah,
time.
I would never publish any more books. And then a couple months later, and he publishes another book. So I think I love Father Oswald. I think he's cool. In February 1873, Ambrose Oswald became ill. Oswald's right-hand man was named Anton Stoll. And this shows up a lot in the paranormal stuff. Anton Stoll records, quote, "A number of times I have observed Father Oswald with closed eyes, when there was no one else in the room but I alone, would extend his hands in blessing and then with his hand signal someone away, and yet I saw no one in the room." So he's sick in bed, and Stoll is seeing him blessing people who aren't there and then motioning for them to leave. And then this was what never showed up when I was researching JFK Prep the first time, but then I found this, and now this constantly shows up in stuff about JFK Prep. Throughout the night of February 26th, as Oswald lay dying, there were reports of mysterious poundings on the wall of his room as well as residences throughout the town. From Anton Stoll's journal, quote, I was sitting quietly at his side now until 11 p.m. about. All of a sudden, there came a messenger from my house who told me to come home, since there was a terrible noise and knocking there. I went fast home and found the above-mentioned men sitting in my room in panic. They could not get tired telling me what was happening. Furious noises and raging. The whole house was investigated with a light, but then it was knocked at the house from the outside. One was going into the living room, but then it was knocking all over the house again. This had been happening in many houses of the settlement, as I heard the other morning, but nowhere so severe as in mine. But in the sick room where Father Oswald laid, nothing happened all night. Everything was quiet and peaceful. About this, dear reader, I'd let you judge yourself.
That's crazy.
It is. Like when he was dying, there was like pounding like on houses around the village.
So I wonder what that was.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. But the only account I really have of that is that Anton Stoll's, where he says, I let you judge yourself. Like,
that's wild.
I don't know. I can't verify if it happened because that's really the only account I have of the knocking. But it's said that the sounds finally stopped when Oswald died the following morning. Then the sounds completely stopped, which is weird.
Yeah.
I gotta have a drink, so talk amongst yourself.
I find the knocking interesting because I know there have been other paranormal instances, situations, stories, what have you, that other people have claimed that to hear. Sometimes they'll hear like what sounds like pounding or knocking from like within, or and then you
But
go
that's so creepy. It's so it's like, what is that?
nothing
What
there.
is that?
Three knocks is supposed
Especially
to be
when they're
evil.
especially when they're outside. It sounded like they were outside and heard the knocking coming from inside, and then when they went inside,
vice
the
versa.
sounds
Yes,
were coming
yes,
from outside,
yes,
like pounding
So
on the
that's-
house.
I find that fascinating.
Feels intelligent.
Yeah, but I don't know. And then it's also tied with this, which is one of the fascinating things about Father Oswald. A judge came from Manitowoc to view Oswald's body the day before the funeral. He was taken aback by the liveliness of the corpse, not wanting to bury it because he said Oswald was not dead. His tomb had not yet been complete, so his coffin was placed on view in a crypt beneath the high altar of the old St. Ambrose Church. That's the church that's there. Like his body was below the altar there for quite a while. The coffin was then reopened on April 29th for examination before it was to be placed in the completed chamber. A priest by the name of Father Mutz, along with a group called the Oswald Sisters, noticed that his body had not decayed and there was no odor of corruption. Oswald's eyes had sunken in, but his skin still had a lifelike complexion. His hair and fingernails were growing. They washed his face and noticed that it served to give him an even more natural look. The next day, 63 days after his death, Oswald was finally sealed in his coffin and moved into the now completed burial vault. The coffin was then opened again 53 years later on October 4th, 1926, when it was being moved into a new stone mausoleum below Loretto Hill, which is where it is now.
Right.
Local health officer Dr. L.W. Gregory, as well as several other members of the clergy, observed through the glass cover that his corpse was still in remarkably good shape after
so
53
weird.
years.
Crazy.
His skin had become shriveled and sallow, but his body and vestments were still very much intact, while the iron on his coffin had rusted and fallen away long ago. And this is a sign of sainthood. In Catholic tradition, it's called incorrupt, and it's sometimes one of the criteria used to determine sainthood.
Wow.
So yeah, this has been journaled like several places. So this actually happened, that when they opened it, like he did not look like he had been dead.
And
for
yet people want to call him evil.
And they
I know, I know.
Obviously
But that
didn't
is
make
like
him a
the
saint
whole
either.
incorrupt thing is one of the signs of sainthood. So there are some people that do think that he
Wow.
was a saint. You know,
Back in that time, did they do embalming?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I
either.
don't
I'm
think
just
so. I
curious
don't think
to-
so.
Was he in
but-
some special kind of crypt that had just
But it's
Sealed
53,
him in
53
there.
years.
Yeah.
53 years is a long time.
That is
I
a
like
long
that
time.
Father Mutz or whatever his name was like, don't bury him. He's not dead.
Right.
You know, because he
scary.
looks so
Sure,
he
that-
looks
right?
so
We're sure he's
That
he's
is- it's
he
crazy.
looks
not
so lifelike.
in a coma.
But yeah, that's one of the fascinating things. In
That is
the
fascinating. I
teaser
didn't know that.
in the teaser picture that I'm posting today, like one of the pictures of the three is his corpse. Like they took a picture of his corpse, and
fun.
yeah. So I
Ooh,
mean,
I want to see that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do too.
On his deathbed, Father Oswald designated a man named Peter Mutz as his spiritual successor. Mutz wanted the colony to abandon the use of the breviary, a strict regimen of daily prayers and devotions around which the day's schedule revolved, saying that time could be used more wisely. Anton Stoll was outraged at Mutz's proposal and argued that copies of the breviary had been purchased and shipped from Germany at great expense. Stoll was also concerned that the elimination of the frequent devotions could weaken the community's resolve to continue the ideals of Father Oswald, so the two constantly went at it. Typical.
I was gonna say the struggle.
Typical
was
when
real
the when the
way
boss
back
is
in the
gone.
day.
When the
Yeah,
boss is
yeah.
gone, yeah.
Yep.
So one guy wants to get rid of the breviary, which is them praying like constantly throughout the day, saying we could do this. We could do something else with this time. And Anton Stoll is like, no, this is what Oswald wanted. It was finally decided that people could choose to stay with the breviary or not stay with it, but by that time the whole thing was kind of falling apart. There were a lot of legal disputes about the land and who owned it. The colony needed to be incorporated. It was, and a board of directors was created, and the colony now became the Roman Catholic Religious Association of St. Nazianz, or the RCRA. In 1879, the RCRA was able to buy back much of its land from the Oswald estate. Surprisingly, though, the association had continued to be self-sustaining during these years of struggle. It had also continued to clothe and feed over 200 disadvantaged and handicapped individuals, both children and adults alike. The state of Wisconsin recognized the importance of its orphanage and began to help support its efforts in 1876. There were always lots of talk about there being an orphanage, and in one of my EVPs, where I feel like I can hear like beating in the background and like screams and stuff.
That's a crazy
I
EVP.
assumed the orphanage was where JFK Prep is, but it's not. I didn't know that until I was researching this, that the orphanage is actually down the road from JFK Prep is St. Mary's Convent, which is now the Holy Resurrection Byzantine Catholic Monastery, where monks still do live to this day, but that was originally the orphanage. It was not on the JFK Prep grounds, which I didn't know. As time passed, RCRA members became older and needed care. Anton Stoll died in 1889. Father Mutz continued his leadership until the mid-1890s, when ill health prevented him from continuing his work. In 1896, the Order of the Divine Savior, an official order of the Catholic Church, purchased the old Oswald property with the understanding that it would care for the now elderly brothers and sisters until they had all died. This Salvatorian order kept its word and continued its work in St. Nazianz. The Salvatorians established a seminary on the grounds and had St. Ambrose Church built on the grounds in 1898. Enrollment at the seminary declined in the 1960s, though, and in 1968 the seminary was closed and reopened as a non-sectarian coeducational college prep school named after John F. Kennedy, the first Catholic U.S. president. So...
JFK was the first Catholic U.S. president?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is weird when you think about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it says the history of JFK Prep. Wikipedia says the seminary enrollment like severely declined in the 60s. Like nobody wanted to be a priest apparently. And in
It was
1968,
the swinging 60s,
in
dude.
1968, it was closed and then it reopened as JFK Prep. JFK Prep is like, I didn't know much about it, but like researching it is like really amazing. And like going back, there's like yearbooks online where you can go back and look through yearbooks
Oh, that's cool.
of JFK Prep. And now I'm like, if I could time travel, I would want to go back and see JFK Prep in its heyday
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
because I just think it's amazing. But before we get to talking about JFK Prep, anything about St. Nazianz you guys want to say? We'll get to the fires and storm later. That's going to be towards
This is
the
all
end.
new to me. I didn't know.
Well, like
Yeah,
the Father
like this
Oswald stuff,
history.
like there's like so much stuff that it was a satanic cult, that he was
Yeah.
a cult leader, and I think so much of that comes from the Germany stuff where he did kind of start a group, but like there's no
nothing evil about it, though.
no.
I
There's
think more the Catholic religion was threatened by him or something.
it might have been because he had like a huge following. It sounded like he was like super charismatic.
Yeah, he
and,
was
like,
not
people,
operating within Catholicism.
No, and people
we
were
can say
drawn to
that.
him, and like he was always all about helping people. He was never, that's why I was so annoyed at that show that wanted to lead me to say Father Oswald was satanic. An aside here, Barry, if you're listening, I did my best to get a hold of Barry
We love you, Barry.
We love you, Barry.
Bear.
We talk about
Bear.
Barry on here all the time. She's one of our group
I
members.
haven't seen her in so
I know.
long.
We love you, Barry. She's one of our group members, and I wanted her to like either voicemail or put something together to talk about her experiences there, or ultimately to come here,
Didn't
which
that
would have
same
been
show
amazing.
interview her too?
Yes.
Yeah, they
I'll talk
really
about
tried
that.
to
I'll talk
twist
about
her.
that more in the second part.
Okay.
But I would have loved for her to come here too.
Oh my gosh, that would have been amazing.
But I have the one phone number I have for her, her last number she gave me. I messaged one morning at work. I'm like, Barry, it's Kurt. Is this your number? And within 10 minutes, they wrote back and said, hey, yeah, this is me. By the way, do you have Cash App? And
that's not Barry.
I'm like, this is not Barry. So now I left her a message on Facebook, but she didn't answer it because I really wanted her.
Is Berrigan on
I was just going
Facebook?
to ask you
I
about
just
Berrigan. Can you
literally
reach out to
thought about that
Berrigan?
right before you guys said it. I should have wrote to Bear again, but I really wanted Barry's take on JFK Prep. So Barry,
absolutely.
if you are listening to this, please get in touch with me, and I would love in a future episode to read.
Or if it's before, you could even edit it in for next week's episode.
episode. So if you can, get back to me with your thoughts about our investigation at JFK
Yeah.
Prep.
That'd be awesome.
When we go to the next episode, the second part of this, we'll talk more about the actual investigation. But it was neat reading, like, Matt's investigation report is still online. That's where people are getting most of this information from. And it's just neat. I forgot Jason Drachman was there. I forgot a whole nother group was there that first night.
We were like co-investigating.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it was like really interesting, but it's just a lot of stuff about, and like I have all my raw audio still from the investigation. Like I have files that are 5 hours long of audio from there. And I just really wanted Barry's, because we talk about Barry a lot because we kind of let her lead because she knew her stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so really want to get in touch with Barry. Are you ready to jump into JFK Prep?
Let's
do
do
it.
it. Mister from another mister.
So this comes from an article called, quote, Things Are Different at JFK, from the March 1975 issue of the Madison, Wisconsin newspaper, The Capital Times. The article says, quote, The Eco House is a class project the likes of which you aren't likely to find anywhere else. Father Melvin Tracy, who teaches a course in environmental studies, began planning the project in late 1973. The idea was to build a house that would be ecologically self-sufficient. Over the summer of 1974, a group of JFK Prep students who were interested in the project tore down an old barn and shed and dug up rocks out of fields to get the material needed to build the structure. Father Melvin, meanwhile, rounded up $26,000 in federal money to help with the project. The students finished the basement and the first floor frames before winter set in, and they hope to finish the eco house this spring. When it is done, if it works right, the heat will be supplied entirely by solar energy and powered by a windmill, which I think is so cool. 10 people should be able to sleep in it. There will be a classroom and an office for Melvin. Not every class project at JFK Prep is quite that grandiose, but the Eco House reflects in good measure the way that education works there. To use educational jargon, the school works on a theory of self-actualization instead of socialization. Traditional schools are based on preparing students for roles in society. At JFK Prep, education is defined as, quote, the process in which the individual learns to make of himself what he or she wishes to be in society and culture.
That's interesting.
So instead of sitting in a classroom reading about ecological systems and energy usage, at JFK Prep, the students plunged right into a practical experience. In a biology class, some students interested in the problems of teenage alcoholism studied the biological effects of it. Some black students delved into the problem of sickle cell anemia, a disease that affects only blacks. These are not simple 2-week projects. In biology, for instance, the first few weeks of the course are devoted to an overview of the subject. Then the rest of the semester is taken up with students working as individuals and groups on projects. All students are expected to complete a core group of subjects such as science, math, reading, and the like, but they have plenty of opportunity to delve into unconventional courses as well.
That is so cool.
It is.
good way to learn.
That's how
yeah,
school
the
should be.
more I read
You would
about this school, I was
learn
like,
more, I
dang,
think.
like, this is good. Peter Eltink, the dean at JFK Prep and St. Nazianz, says about 10 or 15 of the courses being offered this semester were generated from student ideas. One of the classes is called Global Poverty and Development. There are 4 students in the course, ranging from sophomore to senior. On the day I sat through the course, all 4 participated actively in a discussion of population growth and its effect on developing countries. One of the class projects was a campaign to increase the awareness of the rest of the students about the issues of hunger and poverty. Generally, the student-generated courses are run by faculty members, but in one case, a Native American girl wanted a course on the history of her people, and since she knew more about it than anyone else, she taught it under the supervision of a teacher.
Wow.
It sounds like such a cool
It does.
Yeah.
classes.
Very progressive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
like again, I think it was kind of ahead of its time.
Totally.
Classes, like just about everything else at JFK Prep, are informal. Teachers and students relate to each other on a first-name basis. The kids can wear whatever they want. They have all manner of hair lengths and styles. They can smoke in lounges or even in class if it's okay with the teacher.
Nice.
Yep. There are no grades, but at the end of each quarter, the teacher and student get together and prepare individual evaluations. At the end of the year, credit is given on a pass-fail basis.
Dude, this is amazing.
I know. Like the more I read,
wish I
know.
wish I could have gone there.
The more,
they
the more I
learned a
read about
lot,
it, the
too,
more I was
you know?
like, wow. The informality and individual attention work in large part because of the small student body. The average class size is 7.4 people, and the largest is freshman English, which has 35 students. So it's like
Wow.
small.
Yeah.
Father Fred Berg, JFK Prep's principal for the last 2 years, said that he would like to see the school's enrollment go up some, but he said that about 250 students would be about the maximum the school could take and keep its character. Right now, according to Berg, about a third of JFK Prep students are from the Milwaukee area, about 30 are from the immediate St. Nazianz area, and most of the rest are from elsewhere in eastern Wisconsin. Religion is still important at JFK Prep, with required courses in theology and philosophy, but the orientation is personal belief, not doctrine. All of this talk about educational theories and numbers does not really capture the spirit of JFK Prep, though.
It's so interesting because I think I went to a Catholic school for 6 years.
Yeah.
And the experience is wildly different than what you're explaining
Yeah.
here.
Yep.
Very strict and no room for any sort of, I don't know, individuality or
Yeah.
interesting.
One place that captures it is the school's art center. From the outside, the art center looks like an old service garage. That's what it was. But under the guidance of art director Stephen Reichgeld, the inside has been transformed. A gallery features paintings each month from a different Wisconsin artist. There are spacious rooms where students work on everything from elementary sketches to advanced pottery. All of this was put together solely by the students.
Was that part of the actual school building?
I'm guessing that was the
then,
printing building. I'm
or-
guessing that was like around the printing building because there were like extra buildings over by the printing building. But
Well, there's
Mark
also,
and
like,
I
the
checked out.
maintenance building,
maintenance building, the
too,
Renaissance
behind
building.
the dorms.
The Renaissance building where we like was our main, like our central command area might have been
Right.
the art place. Yeah, this is part of the key to JFK Prep, students doing it themselves. There are occasional problems with theft or vandalism and with drinking and drugs. This may stem in part from the school's location. St. Nazianz, a sleepy farming village, does not offer a lot of excitement for teenagers. So as one student put it,
I love how we all laugh because we can
well, because
relate.
we all know St.
Like,
Nazianz.
you
Or
blink,
we
you
grew
miss
up in
it.
a small town.
It's
and
like
we-
it's like Lakeland College. Like I'm
Right.
Such a neat little
I'm
campus,
fascinated
by the
with
way.
Lakeland College because it's literally in the middle of
of
absolutely
nowhere.
nowhere.
Yeah,
All of a sudden there's
surrounded
this
by farm
college there.
fields.
Yeah.
Beautiful campus, though.
There are occasional problems with vandalism, drinking, and drugs. It was the 70s.
By the way, I just drove by Lakeland yesterday.
you?
I took my mom to Whispering Orchards.
I really want to stop. Whispering Orchards.
Yeah.
I really want to stop at. I'm like fascinated with Lakeland College. I really am. I've never been in it, but I'm just like fascinated with how it's just there in the middle of like this cornfield.
Yeah.
St. Nazianz, a sleepy farming village, does not offer a lot of excitement for teenagers. So, as one student put it, JFK Prep is great for academic activities, but the nighttime social life leaves a little something to be desired. And this, I think, is really fascinating. So because of the lack of pretty much anything else to do, even though the school was super tiny and unknown, they did have some sports teams. One of the teams they had was a basketball team, and that actually became one of the lasting legacies of JFK Prep due to Marty and Mickey Crow. Peter Eltink, the dean at JFK Prep in St. Nazianz, says, quote, "This place is really strange to even have a basketball team. The whole structure and philosophy is completely non-competitive. But JFK Prep, a former Roman Catholic seminary turned into a coeducational boarding school for about 160 youths, does indeed have a basketball team. And this weekend, the team competed for the state small independent school state title, which was like a huge thing. Like they had, I don't think they still have it. I think I get to this, but it was like they went to state. Like JFK Prep actually went
Wow.
to state.
Wow.
And that was like a huge thing when it happened.
What is the population of JFK Prep?
I
Do we
mean,
know? No, I'm sorry, St. Nazianz.
oh God, not. I'm guessing
A few thousand?
if
that.
I don't even
that.
think,
Yeah.
I don't even think it's.
St. Nazianz population.
I suppose at that time when there were people living at the school, the population was higher.
The
but
population as of 2021 is 712.
that gives you
So
an idea.
this little
Okay.
rinky-dink school in the middle of nowhere
Yeah.
went to state, which it was
That's really
amazing.
cool.
The team has received more attention than usual because of its star, Mickey Crow. Mickey Crow is a scoring machine, averaging over 40 points a game, and is generally considered the highest scoring high school
That's crazy.
basketball player in Wisconsin history.
Wow.
The story of Mickey Crow and his father, Marty, who coaches the JFK Prep team, has gotten a lot of coverage during the past few months, even making national television. All in all, he scored 2,724 points, a total that to this day remains second in state history and averaged 41.7 points per game, once scoring 72 points in a single game. And remember, there wasn't a 3-point line back then.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it was like, it was crazy, like how
is
good he was.
One-man show.
Some people disagree, though. Some people say that he was overrated. The one and only time I'll probably be researching stuff on basketball sites for the podcast.
Well, was
but
he
there
a
are-
team player or did he?
No, like he sounded like he was a team. He wasn't like a showboat.
Okay.
He's still around.
Hog.
Really? He suffered from a lot of mental problems, schizophrenia.
Oh, really?
But he's still around, and a book came about him, and he's been at like book signings where he like signs the book.
Cool.
So
Wow. You don't think that people from this era you're talking about are still around, but we're talking about what now? The 60s?
80s. This
Oh,
was
the
the
80s
80s.
now.
I think
Okay.
like late 70s, early 80s.
Okay. So
According to
not
Wikipedia.
too much older than us, probably.
No, according to Wikipedia, JFK Prep competed in the Wisconsin Independent Schools Athletic Association, which was dissolved in 2000. Their team was originally called the Royals, with the colors blue and white, but after they acquired uniforms from a different school, they changed their colors to black and gold, and the team name became the Moors, Moors. From 1971 to 1977, the school was home to Wisconsin Hall of Fame high school basketball coach Marty Crow. Hired to teach English, serve as a dorm counselor, and coach basketball, Crow also coached the nearby Manitowoc Chiefs semi-professional football team, and a lot of my students are on the Chiefs, so they're still around. He was once named Coach of the Year. His son, Mickey Crow, enjoyed his own period as a star basketball player during this time, scoring a state record of 2,724 points over his career. Together, they took JFK Prep to the state championship final in 1975, a game in which the younger Crow scored 45 points, but the team ended up losing to Racine Lutheran High School 72-58.
Oh,
I know, boo.
yeah.
George Hall, the boys' dormitory, was gutted by a fire on April 9th, 1975. About 25 students were housed in that building, but most were at dinner in the cafeteria, and there were no deaths or injuries. The cost of operating a small private school proved more than the order could bear, and the school closed in 1982. After this, the property went through a succession of owners and schemes, suffering from neglect and vandalism. The former school gymnasium was restored in April 2006, because when we did the investigation in 2005, the gymnasium was where they had like an altar set up. Like they were doing church things in the gymnasium, because I have pictures of like the altar on the basketball floor, in the corner of the basketball floor. The former school gymnasium was restored in April 2006. Jim and Linda Frosch of United Ministries acquired the property in 2008 and have been renovating other buildings for use as a summer and winter camp for children. The gymnasium currently houses a thrift store to raise funds for the restoration. Additionally, the former football field and several dormitories have been renovated, and a campground was built near the lake. The church remains abandoned, however. A temporary roof has been installed, which allows it to be open during the summer. So that's what I got for JFK Prep.
Well,
It's
I learned a lot there.
totally.
I never knew like what kind of school it was, but like researching the school, I'm like, dang, this is a really
and any history of abuse?
No, there was like nothing like that. But there's Facebook pages, I think I'm a member of some of them, where it's like alumni of JFK Prep, and they post pictures and stuff, and it just looks
clearly have fond memories of going to school there.
Yeah, but we're gonna get to in the second part, or maybe even this part. There's comments in both, but we get to like comments from former students and stuff.
So there was another dormitory on the property that obviously burnt down?
No, I think it was the dorms that we investigated, but I think
Like
they
the old
rebuilt.
dorms.
Yeah, the
Okay.
old dorms. I think they rebuilt.
And I guess I didn't realize it was open until 82.
Yeah. but seeing pictures of it in its heyday and students working, it's just like really cool. I did talk about the
Did they wear uniforms? Was it a uniform school?
No, they said they could wear pretty much whatever.
Casual.
I guess
It
they
was,
could smoke in the lounge.
It's
so
weird because
probably didn't have to wear
it's like that
uniform.
70s like casual, like you called your teacher by their first name,
Right.
You know, it's just, and then I have the stuff
It's
about
like Dazed and Confused,
Yeah.
but like
yeah. I
Cooler.
had talked about the Dave Bagatka story about JFK Prep, that the group is rumored to communicate with the devil in the basement. But then we get to about the town being cursed, and the town does have a history of fires and other disasters. According to the website sistersofthedivinesavior.org, quote, in 1896, Salvatorians settled in St. Nazianz, Wisconsin, a village established by German immigrants in 1854. The villagers were very proud of their heritage. They followed German customs and often spoke German. By April 1918, 1 year after the United States of America declared war against Germany, it was common to hear public expressions of hatred towards Americans of German descent. Villagers and businesses in St. Nazianz had received anonymous threatening letters criticizing their, quote, excessive pride in their German heritage. On April 5th, a huge fire broke out in St. Nazianz that affected everyone in the village. It burned for over 8 hours. The town did not have a fire department, so hundreds of firefighters from neighboring communities showed up. The official cause is recorded as, quote, explosion of a gasoline tank, but many people believe it had been set deliberately. Some villagers thought they heard an automobile passing through town right before the fire started, but there was never official evidence of arson. No one was ever charged, and there were no official suspects. Still, the question always remained. So, because of the anti-Germany sentiments.
That's crazy. My mom's family, the Sikawatis, they had a farm out there, and I guess I never really kind of put two and two together that it was very heavily German descendants which would make sense because
of Oswald, because of Father Oswald, because they came from Germany,
Yeah.
so it would be a lot of German. But Wisconsin is so German,
very German.
as it is. During the fire, 16 buildings were completely destroyed. The town was pretty much left in ruins, and at least 5 families were left homeless. And there's just been a weird history of fires in St. Nazianz. You know, like I read a lot about fires in St. Nazianz, but of course it's just a small town, you know, so it's probably nothing. Like, I don't think it's a curse, but there's stuff. And then we get to the storm, and I remember this because this wasn't that long ago. During the late morning of May 12, 2000, a single high precipitation supercell thunderstorm developed in west central Wisconsin and moved east across the southern 4 counties of the Green Bay forecast area. Baseball-sized hail, driven by winds in excess of 60 miles per hour, produced incredible damage in Waushara, Winnebago, Calumet, and Manitowoc counties. Chilton and St. Nazianz were particularly hard hit by very large hail and hurricane-force wind gusts well over 75 miles per hour, some believing to top 100 miles per hour. And I think about that windstorm we had a couple,
Oh my gosh.
and that was like 60 miles an hour.
Yes,
I
just a
cannot
couple
imagine
months ago.
I cannot imagine 100 mile an
No.
hour winds.
No, because that was scary. I was sitting in my truck.
I was sitting
in a lot of the doctor's
I was
office
sitting-
waiting to go in.
I was sitting in my kitchen eating sushi, and I'm looking out the.
There's a
I
tornado.
thought a tornado. Seriously,
Yeah,
the
it
way
had been
the truck
it had
was
been
shaking.
nothing, and I'm sitting there in my living room watching TV, and I'm like, "What's that noise?" So I have my sushi. I go to the kitchen, and I'm looking outside, and then a huge wind gust came, and there were big branches, flying sideways in the air, and
Yes.
I'm like, "Oh crap, this
I
isn't
have never
good."
seen the
I have
rain
never seen
blow
that.
sideways.
Yeah,
And then
that's
because
scary.
Corey and Nicole were camping, I drove to their house to check their house, and I literally had to take like 5 detours on Waldo because there were
Yes.
huge
Yeah.
trees down over Waldo
Did they ever
Boulevard.
declare that straight line winds? You know,
I
mean, it
don't
would've-
know. I don't know, but it was horrible.
Oh, it's-
It was bad.
So
And
to
that was
think
60
that-
miles
right,
an
and
hour.
to think
Imagine
that-
100 miles
no.
and baseball-sized hail.
No.
well, I remember the sky that day. I remember I was
The day
working
of-
at Burger
the
Boat,
day
and
of
I
the-
ran outside to move my
The
car.
day of
under
the St.
bridge.
Nazian storm?
Yeah.
I remember that day.
was just
it was like
black.
midnight. It
Yeah,
was like
it got
midnight
so dark
outside.
out.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Total damage from the storm in the state was nearly $122 million, much of that in the Green Bay forecast area. This was the first time a single storm produced over $100 million in damage in Wisconsin. Fritz Keppen's 20-year-old cat still cowers every time a thunderstorm hits St. Nazianz.
PTSD.
She wasn't. This came from an article. I don't think I have it
Need
written
some
down.
catnip.
She wasn't scared of bad weather until 15 years ago today when the biggest storm the village had ever seen ravaged the small community. The people that were here are definitely very conscious now of storms, said Keppen, who retired as the village fire chief in 2014 after serving 35 years. It's a day we will never forget. Residents described the weather that Friday before Mother's Day weekend as overcast but cool and humid. Severe weather warnings started popping up for neighboring counties mid-morning, first Waushara, then Winnebago, then Calumet. When radar indicated the storm was actually strengthening, Copen knew that St. Nazianz was in a direct line of fire. The village was going to get hit and hit hard. He says, quote, "It was pitch black at 10 to 12 p.m. The street lights were going on. It got that dark." He decided to blow the fire siren before he even received an official alert. He says, quote, "I just walked outside and it was dead silence. No air. It was humid and it was an eerie feeling. Just then, the first hailstones came, and they were definitely baseball-sized. When they started hitting the roof of the fire station, it sounded like there was a large gravel truck up there dumping a load of stones on the roof. I'll never forget the sound."
Do you think that would kill someone if it hits them right on the head?
They said that it was actually miraculous and nobody was killed.
Yeah.
The storm severely damaged the village from the top of the St. Gregory's Church steeple, which was blown completely off by high winds, to the fields of newly sprouting crops, which were destroyed by hail. Power lines had been blown down and electricity was out everywhere. House siding was battered to confetti. Trailer homes were flipped, often completely upside down, and debris from building and destroyed trees littered the roads. It looked like a war zone, Keppen said. "I really thought we were going to find dead bodies. I really did." Keppen wasn't alone in expecting the worst. Nancy Crowley, Manitowoc County Emergency Management Director for 30...
She was my boss for a while.
Oh, wow. Was she?
Yeah, I was.
Relation to
Really?
your coworker.
Really?
Too.
So
Yeah,
that was
she
your
was
boss?
my coach, my boss.
I keep forgetting you did that.
Yeah, when I worked at the sheriff's department.
Yeah, I keep forgetting you did that. Yeah,
Emergency
Nancy
services.
Crowley, Manitowoc County Emergency Management Director for 34 years, said, quote, "When I actually got to the village itself, it was unbelievable to think that we didn't have a death or two. Because the trailer court alone, most of the houses were like sardine cans, just crushed. The village was pretty much on its knees." Keppen says we had 31 injuries. Some were more serious, but most of them were scratches and bruises. Many of the village's structures weren't as lucky. Some had their roofs completely torn off and others had collapsed completely. The storm, deemed a high precipitation supercell thunderstorm by the National Weather Service, produced baseball-sized hail that was blasted into walls and windows by straight-line hurricane force winds of up to 100 miles an hour.
Jeez.
Meteorologist Jeff Lass says, quote, "Typically in Wisconsin, you'll either get a storm that produces really large hail or a storm that produces really large winds, but it's rare to have both. I did a damage survey that afternoon, and it was damage that I had never seen before." He said that the hail caused the most damage in the hardest hit 15-mile span from Chilton to St. Nazianz. The strongest part of the storm in the village lasted 42 seconds. Think of that devastation in 42 seconds.
That's amazing.
You know, like that storm that we had a couple weeks ago didn't last that long, but it was still pretty bad.
Yeah.
If I had to put a percentage of hail versus wind damage, at least 75% was hail, he said. 70-mile-an-hour winds won't do too much damage to a house. It won't do any damage to a car, but you throw some baseball-sized hail into that, and you have a whole new ballgame. A brief tornado was reported outside St. Nazianz that did no damage, but to this day, residents beg to differ on whether a tornado was part of the mix inside the village, too. Keppen says, quote, "I heard a locomotive sound. There's no doubt in my mind. They can call it a straight wind or whatever they want, but I heard the sound, and we don't have railroad tracks in town, so at that point, I knew we had a tornado." Last said data indicated Class 6 straight-line winds, which actually cause more damage than a typical Wisconsin-sized tornado, but no matter who you believe, the destruction caused was indisputable.
That's what took our tree out, was a straight line wind.
Was it?
That landed on our house,
I
yeah.
remember that picture up there. Yikes. 15 years later, only a few signs of the storm still remain in St. Nazianz. A hail-damaged shed that was never repaired, some lingering roof damage at Holy Resurrection Monastery, and trees with battle scars in their bark. Though physical evidence of the storm has faded over time, Keppen's memories haven't. He still remembers the home where a street sign from Chilton was found in an upstairs bedroom.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah. Yeah, and he remembers that the worst time the storm hit, 12 minutes to 12, a broom broke through his office from a hailstone that shot through the window. That's just crazy. Yeah. Keppen has photos, still has books of photos, and gives speeches from time to time to area organizations about emergency preparedness. So there you go. That's what I got. Like St. Nazianz has its run of bad luck, but as far as being cursed, I don't know. So here's some comments that I found on some of these websites from people talking about St. Nazianz. In the second part, we'll get more into JFK Prep. This user says, quote, "This is really fascinating. How sad it is to see the place decaying like that. The church is certainly still beautiful." And this is where there was a weird synchronicity that week, because I read this comment that week, and then this person goes on to write, quote, "I'll bet that dabbling in old Odinic black magic is what got Father Oswald kicked out of Germany." And I looked it up because I had never heard Odinic before, and then it showed up a couple days later when they were talking about the Delphi murders.
Oh, right.
And I was like, it was weird to me that twice that week I heard this term that I had never heard before.
How random.
Yeah, I bet
But
that
not random.
I bet that dabbling in old Odinic black magic is what got Father Oswald kicked out of Germany. My husband, who has some familiarity with Norse paganism, believes that too, based on what went on with the white cow and the racket on the walls at the time of Father Oswald's death. Somebody else writes, quote, "My family has lived in the town since the beginning. I live in the suburbs and have visited many times in my life. I truly believe the town is cursed. I have never been there and not felt presences. I have never been able to sleep the whole night through when I'm in town. My mother grew up in the town in a house that is said to be haunted, and she is not one to embellish. She has told me story after story about her personal experiences. My grandpa took my brother and I for a walk when we were younger to the seminary, and we went to visit Father Oswald's mausoleum. Being that close was terrifying. I've always been skeptical of ghost stories, but I can tell you from personal experience and a family history of experiences, St. Nazianz is truly haunted." Somebody else writes, quote, "I am very sensitive to the paranormal, and I grew up in St. Nazianz. I promise you it's no more haunted than any other place in the country."
Funny.
Yeah, so there's a lot of weird stuff happens sometimes.
Contradictory.
Sure, but if you buy into everything, you'll just scare yourself into being miserable. St. Nazianz is a beautiful little village, and it's a wonderful place to grow up. So what do you think? St. Nazianz, haunted, cursed?
I think
What do
it
you
could be
think?
haunted. I doubt the cursed
I think
piece.
every place is haunted. I
Totally.
think any place can be haunted.
Right.
Remaining
Not
energy.
evil.
You know, I mean,
Yeah. As far as it being cursed,
by who?
Had a natural disaster.
so many things said that Father Oswald
Why would he do that?
cursed the town on his deathbed because it was getting taken away from him. And while they did lose the town, it happened years, like decades after he died.
Yeah, that just doesn't.
So they say that
sound-
he cursed the town, or they say that later people cursed the town when they lost their money from the settlement, or from when the settlement was sold and they didn't get their money. So
What if
people
it's
say,
because of the knocking?
I don't know. So people say that the town is cursed.
String
but
of bad luck.
It does
you
have
know,
a string of bad luck. It's got it's got the fires. It's got the
every town
storm.
goes
I mean,
do
what did
something like that,
Chicago
though.
burn down from a
Yeah.
cow kicking
Yeah.
over?
Yeah. So I mean,
Peshigo fires.
yeah,
like
the
those
Peshigo. So
worst.
it has its share of bad luck, but I don't think it's cursed.
No, I don't think.
I get
so.
a weird vibe there, but I get a weird vibe in Fond du
but
Lac
in a
too.
good
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
It's a good.
But is
weird
it just
vibe.
because it's just that small village?
Yeah, and because I grew up
where
hearing
everybody knows
the history.
everybody and
Yeah.
kind of watches out for one another
you aren't from
notices.
there.
Yeah, you
if
aren't
you're
from
a
there.
stranger.
when you drive
or
down the main drag, they
there's-
sit there
that's
and watch
that's
you, and
not
they're
a car
calling
I
each other.
recognize.
Yeah, who's this
right.
person?
See that
I
red
went-
car that drove through earlier? Who
Yeah.
was that?
But they also have a good reason to be suspicious because of people trespassing
Yes.
on
Yeah.
JFK in the JFK Prep
Yeah.
property,
Yeah.
and
That's
part
been
of-
going on
We
for
saw all the
years.
vandalism and that.
yeah, we
there,
saw.
the-
I think I'm going to post like pictures of like the spray paint in the classrooms and stuff. But I think some of my vibes from it come from growing up hearing about it being cursed
Sure.
and haunted, and
A
JFK
little bit
Prep being
preconceived.
a majorly haunted place.
Does anyone still taste that chicken?
Yes.
No,
Every once in a while, when I
my
burp,
Mine's
it
gone.
comes up.
It's
Yeah.
burp. I know.
Totally.
You're, like in the middle of your
Talk about
spiel, Kurt, and I'm
haunting.
like,
talk about haunting.
I had a little
Yeah.
burp too. And I'm like, okay,
Coming
that
back to
was
haunt
Sorry,
shows.
I just
That
can't
was
get rid
that
of
was.
this taste.
I can usually handle the stuff, but
That
that
was
was up there with
disgusting.
the worst things that we've ever tried on this podcast.
It's not quite as bad as Dunder Salt,
It's
but
kind of
it
like
was
green
bad.
peppers. It keeps coming.
It
at
just
you.
Yeah.
it does keep coming up. So yeah, that's where I ended. What do you think? Is cursed? I
No.
don't think so. I think
No.
St. Nazianz is
No.
I think
Haunted,
it's-
sure.
Like I said, my grandparents lived there. I was there many
Yeah.
times. Never.
Yeah, I have
felt-
friends that live
never.
there, and I've been there several times. We'll get more into the second part about our experiences at JFK Prep. But as far as the whole town being cursed and haunted, I think every town is haunted to some extent.
Yeah.
Cursed, I don't think anybody cursed the town. There was nothing about Father Oswald that was remotely bad. He was
Right.
like, He was a straight up.
I mean, that's
good
not
dude.
saying there's not individual hauntings.
No, I'm sure
in a
there's
particular
individual hauntings.
building
Well,
or
especially
whatever.
being,
Such
being
a history.
such an old community.
Yeah, and having such a
And-
history of like JFK Prep itself going
The
through
energy
many
there.
different things, the
Right.
energy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know.
And the buildings are constructed from limestone, right?
I
or like the
believe
foundations are
yeah,
built
so
with
maybe
limestone.
that
and
maybe
then
some of
feed
that
into it.
has
yeah,
they
So
think that
energy
can
stored,
energy
yeah.
stored in there like a battery.
yeah.
But as far as being cursed, no. St. Nazianz is a nice little town. I mean, there's not much to it, but
No.
I go there. I like going to the thrift store. I need to stop at Meats Opera House because I was looking at their menu and it sounds really delicious.
Why
But
is it called Meats Opera House?
because it was originally an opera house.
It was. Okay.
And then a guy named Meat bought it. I read the whole history.
Like
I actually
MEET.
I was there for a
MEAT,
number of
I think that's his
parties when it
nickname.
was
Yeah,
the Opera
yeah.
House.
Like it's cool. I researched that quite a bit. I didn't put it in this episode, but I researched Meat's Opera House. One creepy thing
course
is
you
that
did.
one creepy thing is that there was a there
You
was
had
a
research the menu.
Totally.
cheese curds. I did see cheese curds. There was a puppet show that was famous that came out of St. Nazianz, and I saw
kidding.
pictures of it, and it was like puppets are creepy.
They are
We're gonna
really-
get more into that
Very creepy.
in 3 weeks. We're gonna get a little more into
I took
puppets
some
and dolls.
creepy pictures of marionettes and puppets at the House on the Rock. We should do a field trip back to the
I
House
want
on
to
the
see
Rock.
the House on the Rock.
It was
I've
so
never been
amazing.
to the House on the
Jim
Rock.
and I just
Isn't that
went, and it was
crazy?
amazing. I was there as a teenager, but this is my first time back, and it's just
See,
as
we need to do
wild
some
and
road trips, you
amazing.
guys.
And it's only a couple of hours away.
Yes.
We totally did it. Jim and I had we rented an Airbnb because we were hitting up Cave of the Mounds and other
Yeah.
places too.
We did
But
that
when I was a kid, we drove there in one day and came back,
Right.
and it was totally worth it.
Yeah.
Or even, oh my gosh, I've got a couple books in my library that talks about some of the haunted, the
Cemeteries and stuff in
yeah,
Wisconsin
like
that are
even in
haunted. Yeah.
Appleton,
Oh, yeah.
there's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or
We could do day trips
absolutely.
Next season on the show, I want to do more
on site,
like going places and stuff. So
I
there we
think
go.
it'd be cool to contact some places ahead of time,
Yes.
and get permission,
Yeah.
so we don't feel like we're having to sneak around.
What's the
Feel
college
weird
that we
about
talked
it.
about going to? Because I keep coming across stuff about it. Is it Whitewater or
Whitewater.
yeah?
It's like
White,
the Salem of Wisconsin.
yeah, like Whitewater
Really?
has like. So I think next
Major witch-
season I want to do an episode about Whitewater, and I
Yeah.
want us to go
I went
to
to school
Whitewater.
there, yeah.
I know. I want us to
Totally.
go to
That's where
Whitewater.
I met Jim.
Aw,
Yeah.
see?
It's
So
a neat
that's-
little campus too.
That's what I got. St. Nazianz, JFK Prep. I think it's just a fascinating history.
I do too.
Oh,
It is
yeah.
so fascinating. I didn't know
It
any
is.
of that about the school and how progressive it
It
was.
was super progressive.
Or how
I didn't realize
progressive
how
Father
progressive
Oswald
it
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very,
Yeah.
very cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and that Father Melvin, whatever his name is, like people like in the comments I read, people adored him. Like he was like super well liked.
It's
Like
so
somebody,
crazy that-
somebody wrote that the cemetery there is haunted, and somebody else wrote, no, it's not haunted. Father Melvin's buried there. You know,
so funny.
yeah, so it's super cute.
It's just so crazy that you hear these rumors for so long that there was all this abuse that was happening there, and that's why it's haunted. And it's like, no, it was a totally
Yeah.
positive
There could have very
history.
well have been abuse there.
Maybe, but wouldn't that be documented?
Yeah.
Somebody would have said.
Well,
that
for the
happened.
longest time, the rumor was the suicide, but we'll find out later in next week's episode that that's true.
Well,
That-
wasn't there something with the nuns having baby?
One of the legends of it was that there's that Lake Oswald that's behind JFK Prep, and I've never been to that. I look at it on Google Earth. When we were there, there's like a path that leads down to Lake Oswald, which is a little lake right behind.
Yeah.
And the rumor was that nuns were being raped by the priests, and the babies that were born were thrown into the
God.
lake.
That's horrifying.
And that's
Hopefully.
a rumor.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's just so many
People
dark
make stuff
rumors.
up to
yeah.
sensationalize.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of it stems from probably the fact that there was an abandoned high school there, an abandoned church, and
Haunted
people-
houses were conducted
and-
there,
yeah.
like actual touring haunted houses.
Yeah. And people just ran with that and made it into. So I understand why people in St. Nazianz are, especially people at JFK Prep, are edgy about teenagers coming into their, coming onto their property. When I wasn't there for the second night of the investigation, the second time, but that's when they actually had people break in, like teenagers broke in while our group was there investigating.
Oh my God.
Because I think Matt talks about that on the website, that they heard footsteps upstairs and they thought it was a ghost, and it turned out that it was kids that broke into the building.
That's such a like watching Destination Fear. Those are actually my favorite
Oh,
episodes
right.
when actual people are there
Yes.
because the adrenaline that they must feel.
Yes,
It's also really scary. I wouldn't want to run into that, but people are scary.
So there you go. I do have a song choice.
Sweet.
We do have a listener question
Sweet.
from Brad Medeiros
Oh,
that we're
Brad.
I'll ask
yes,
in the
that's right.
I'll ask in the next episode because I
okay.
kind of want Mark and Rhonda here
Yeah,
because
that's
that's a
perfect.
good question.
I
for,
did read it.
Yeah, that's a good question for all of us. If you guys have a song choice, I do have one song choice.
I do not.
Okay. As usual, these are some YouTube comments about it. Somebody for this song that I'm suggesting today on YouTube writes, quote, I just turned 40 and I can't believe my favorite childhood band is evolved to such mature levels and is still together. It's so heartwarming. Somebody else writes, the album is sounding like a soundtrack to a late 2000s teenage rom-com and I'm totally here for it. Somebody else writes,
Love that.
15-year-old me is crying. It's a new song and new video, but it's still so nostalgic. And then this one, somebody writes, quote, my girlfriend absolutely hates this band. After playing this song a few times while driving around, she fell in love with the song. She asked me who sang it. I told her. Now she's not speaking to me. And it is the song. It just came out this week. And this is a band that I just love. Like, I've always loved this band. I think they're one of the forerunners of, I don't know if you want to call them emo bands or pop punk bands or whatever, but it is Taking Back Sunday. And the song that just came out this week, the video just came out, it is Amphetamine Smiles. And it's like a slow song. And it's just so cool to see, like they say, a band that, you know, like they were punk kids when they started, punky kids, and now they're like old, basically.
Older.
Well, one of the first single that came off the album is called Sold. It's S''OLD, and it's about sold, but it's also being so old.
Yeah.
You know, so like they're acknowledging like their age. It's just really cool to see them still around, still making music. So it is the song Amphetamine Smiles by the band Taking Back Sunday. And I think that's it. Anybody got anything else before we end this episode and jump into our JFK Prep investigation episode?
No, I'm excited for that. I
Yeah.
love
Too.
the
Let's-
EVP.
let's-
I haven't
let's
heard that in a
jump.
while.
We're gonna
Let's
jump.
jump.
I have 20 EVPs. They're not that great. The one that Mark got, obviously, is the best EVP I think we've ever gotten on an investigation. And everybody, the thing is, you guys, the strangers listening to this that have listened to this for years have heard most of these already. But again, it's going to be for people that are new to are like searching JFK Prep and they're like, oh, these schmucks made a podcast about it. I'm going to listen to it. Or they'll get to listen to all the evidence in one place. So jump into our deets.
Jump into the deets.
Our deets are, you can email us at thestrangesessions@gmail.com. Twitter, X, whatever you call it. I don't even know anymore.
Why do we
what
even
is
mention
it?
it? We're not on.
We are.
I
Krista
haven't touched that in
No.
a couple of years.
Krista does a great job on Instagram where we are the Strange Sessions.
I would like to mention I'm deleting my personal Instagram account. Like,
What?
I've already put the request in,
What?
but they make it really hard for you. They deactivated me, and they're going to give me a month
to
change
decide
my
whether
mind.
you want to go back.
And
Yeah.
then they'll
my.
permanently delete all my stuff.
I strongly
I'm over
dislike
it.
Instagram ever
Yeah,
since
I'm
Meta
over
bought it because now it's like 90% stuff from other things that I don't subscribe to
Right.
with a handful of ones that I do subscribe
Yeah.
to. So it's getting super frustrating.
So I'm only on there through the podcast now.
You can send postcards and snail mail to The Strange Sessions, P.O. Box 434, Manitowoc, Wisconsin, 54221-0434. Was all excited yesterday when I opened it up and saw something, and it turned out to be a flyer from Fleet Farm.
Hey, Fleet Farm's nice.
Thank you, Fleet Farm.
Thanks, Fleet Farm, for listening. You can call our lonely phone line. We did actually just get another message. We have 2 messages there. I got to download and play those.
Have you
can-
heard them? Have you listened to them?
Yeah, and I totally forgot to mention them on
Oh.
here.
Sure, people are calling our lonely voicemail, and you're ignoring
I'm
it.
the one neglecting our our voicemail. Yeah, we actually have, Brad yelling at me for not doing his topic he wanted, and Josh Arthur.
Oh, Josh, he's a
asking-
long-time listener.
Asking about doing Strange States, which we'll do next
Oh,
season.
sweet. Okay.
So you can call. I get a message that there's a message there. I just haven't listened to it.
It could be
And-
like a bajillionaire that's like, guys, I want to sponsor you and do this full time.
Yeah.
I'll pay for
And
everything.
then I don't answer, and they're like, well,
All
heck
the
with you then.
latest equipment.
Heck with you then. Or you can, if you have a listener story, you can send it to thestrangesessionstories@gmail.com.
Have you checked that email?
No, I have not checked that lately.
Or-
So
or
probably millionaires there, probably.
How about a place to investigate, if you know?
Yeah. Well, we want to we'll jump into that in the next topic, but we want to get back into doing investigations.
Big time.
But yeah,
I want to get back to the Sheboygan Asylum and actually spend time in the nurses' wing. That was so disappointed that we.
Well, remember one of our much loved listeners, Coleman,
offered to
talked about
it.
paying for like an individual, a solo, where it can just be a group.
Our
Like
group.
Blaine and his group really want to come, but it's just like a couple people too. But I want to do a group investigation with Blaine and his
Yeah.
group.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, they can invite us anytime.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yep. So we're going to talk more about that next weekend. So I think that's it for this week.
Next weekend, here
which
it
is just
goes.
going to be
5
minutes from now.
Like,
Mark and Rhonda, thanks for joining us. We hope you can join
Thanks
us
for
for
having
next
us.
weekend's episode.
you.
I think we could be
think you guys can
convinced.
squeeze that in?
Sure.
Since Kurt
So-
drove you here today, you're
Right,
you're
we're kinda
basically
sad.
on.
and I gotta wash my mouth out. I can't handle the chicken
You
anymore.
want another one? There's more. There's more.
God.
I'm
More-
just
more-
looking at your used one on the
Oh, that was
napkin
just
next
was
to us.
foul.
Disgusting.
That was foul. How long
Ah,
was this?
get it,
How
but
long
I'm
was this
foul.
one?
Hour and 48 minutes.
Okay, I think it would have been pushing it
Way too long.
And the thing is, I hate feeling like I'm rushed.
Yep.
Like I want the EVPs
You don't wanna rush that
are
section.
mostly cycled 3 times, so it's going to be a little longer. I want us talking about the EVPs, and I don't want to be like, let's get going. This is
Rushing.
going to be we got to get this episode done. So I'm really glad that we split this into 2 episodes.
Totally. Me
So
too.
coming next weekend, our JFK Prep investigation and evidence. So from Krista, Rhonda, Mark, and myself down in the strange cellar. Until next time,
Stay strange.